I'm going to talk now about a potentially very lucrative business that most people do not know even exists. Now, this business has been around for as long as the internet has been around. And I am fortunate in as much as I have been involved with the internet going way back before most people ever heard that this thing called the internet or the information superhighway or the World Wide Web, whatever it was called, before most people even knew it existed. I first learned about it when I was working a temp job. This was quite a number of years ago. And one of the employees had the computer, and I was already into computers. I was one of the first people in my high school to take a computer science class, and I was fascinated by the technology. But back then, it was nothing like what it is now. But at any rate, I was fascinated by what he was doing. I had never seen or heard of this internet thing, and he was on. It wasn't even. He was on what was it called, a bulletin board system, a BBS system. And what it was a bunch of bulletin boards that were linked together. And I saw that he was communicating with other people. He was sending messages. They were sending messages back. He was corresponding with people from different parts of the world. At that time, there were very few lay people that even had access to the internet. Unless you were involved with a major university or the military or a major corporation, and that was a major corporation, you probably would not have access to the internet. And even then, you had to know some things about Unix code. You had to understand something about computers. It wasn't as easy as it is now. But let me get to the heart of the business. And the story I'm telling you is important because I saw the potential. Like I said, entrepreneurs are always going to be forward thinking. We're always looking for the opportunity. You show us a glass that's half empty, we see it as half full. You know, you give us a bunch of lemons, we're going to make lemonade, and then we're going to sell it to the highest bidder. That's what we do. We look for opportunities even before other people see that there's an opportunity. And I got involved in the internet early. And back then, in order to purchase a domain name, you had to pay approximately $60. Right now, you can pick up a domain name for $9.95. There, I'm talking about a .com. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to go to a domain name, two of the one I like best of all, and we're going to discuss that. But first of all, let me get into the heart of the business. And basically, it is investing in domain names. So I went to a website. I did a Google search to try to find the most expensive domain names. I knew most of these, and this is what came up: the 11 most expensive domain names ever. So we're going to go through this list quickly, and then I'm going to discuss the business that I've been involved in from the very inception of this business. I started buying domain names way before the major corporations and companies and big players who had money to spend would ever realize that they would want those hot domain names. Now, vodka.com is not one of the ones that I picked up, but if it were, I would have made $3 million on that one domain name. Now, let's assume that, because back in the day, that's what a domain name costs, approximately $60. And by the way, and that is for a year. But let's assume that's one of the domain names I had. It would have sold for $3 million. We're talking about a $60 investment turning into $3 million once the big companies realized that that domain name would benefit them. Okay. Toys.com was purchased in 2009. That's not too long ago, for $5.1 million. Okay. Now, it is sold, I believe, several times since the inception. But Toys R Us decided they wanted the domain name toys.com, so they bought it for $5.1 million. Now, I want you to chew on that for a moment. Let's say that you were a forward thinker and you saw the potential, even as I did way back in the day. Now, obviously, Toys R Us just recently purchased this, but you knew that somebody that sold toys could benefit from that domain name and would want it, and they would pay a premium for it. But because there wasn't that much competition, and you were early, even before the internet became really popular, especially, and you bought it for $60, and you held on to it for a few years, you'd be a multimillionaire. by just investing a few $100s. Okay. And I say a few $100s because you have to keep renewing that domain every year. The price has gone down substantially. And one thing I want to tell you is that one reason that domain names were extremely valuable in the beginning, even more so than they are now, is because that was before we had these search engines like Google and Yahoo and all the others that you can use to pretty much find anything you want. And that's what people rely on nowadays. When people want to find something, they go to a search engine like Google. They type in keywords, just like I found this. I typed in a few words. I didn't need a domain name. This is HuffingtonPost.com, and then there's all this other crap. But I did not need a domain name. I just went to the search engine. I typed in what I was looking for. The search engine found it for me. It gave me a bunch of choices, and this is sufficient for what I was trying to do. But back in the day, they actually had catalogs you could buy that had domain names listed in them. It was like a Yellow Pages. And you might go to the automotive section, for example, and find no more than about a dozen or 24 websites. And if you had a website that dealt with automobiles, or you sold automobile parts, you would want to be listed in that catalog. Nowadays, nobody cares about that because you can go to a search engine. But back then, the two ways you would find something would be word of mouth, or they would promote it on billboards or something like that. They would promote the domain name so you could go to the website, or you would have a intuitive domain name such as toys.com. So it stood to reason that if you were selling vodka, you might want to get a domain name like vodka.com because we did not have all these search engines and they were not as efficient as they are today and they were not as popular. What people would do is they'd say, I need to buy some vodka. Or they might say, I need to find a wholesaler for vodka. Or maybe they're opening up a franchise and they need to find a source for vodka. The natural, intuitive thing a person would do, and that's why I say an intuitive domain name, the intuitive thing that a person would do is try vodka.com, hoping that they would get what they were looking for. Whoever owned that domain name would get the traffic. And that's why these domain names sell. Okay, that was number 12. Number 1, toys.com was number 2. It sold for $5.1 million. And we're starting from the lowest to the highest that people have paid for a domain name. Casino.com was sold in 2003 for $5.1 million for Casino.com. Israel.com, let's see. This is interesting. The Telegraph explains that the buyer of Israel.com, who purchased the site for $5.8 million in 2004, I guess instead of just buying the domain name, he bought the entire site, says it was bought in 1994 by Joel Noel Friedman, a 46-year-old Jewish American. Rather than seeking profit, he originally bought the site in fear that it would be misused by somebody else. So let's go to number 5. Beer.com. Beer.com was sold for $7 million in 2004. Diamond.com was sold for $7.5 million in 2006. It was purchased by the owner of Ice.com. Okay? Diamond.com is certainly better than Ice.com if you're selling diamonds. Business.com. Let's see. This domain name is tied with Diamond.com for a multi-million-dollar price tag. Business.com was also purchased for $7.5 million in 1999. The Telegraph writes, business search engine and web directory founded in 1999 by Jake Weinbaum, a previous chairman of Walt Disney Internet Group, and Sky Dayton, founder of Earthlink. In July 2007, Business.com, the company, was sold to Yellow Pages publisher R.H. Donnelly for $345 million. Don't get excited. $345 million is what the company was sold for. Okay, the domain name came with it. The domain name itself sold for $7.5 million in 1999. Porn.com. Let's see. It's one of the most valuable domain names on the web. That address last sold for around $9.5 million in 2007. Okay. So like I said, back in the day before the internet was even a fraction, it wasn't even a blip on the radar compared to what it is now, where everybody knows about the internet, at least whether they're on the internet or not. You have people in third world countries. You have people that don't even have electricity to their houses who are aware of the internet, who know how to get on the internet, and they go to cyber cafes and they use the internet. It has become much more prolific and much more well known now. But imagine if you had bought a domain name like this before it became so popular, and before that name would be as valuable as it is, and you sold it for 9.5 million. There's still opportunity, and that's where we're going to get to. I still invest in domain names. I've done okay with them, and I have some that are pretty valuable as well. I flip some, and I still use some to drive traffic to my various websites, but I'm always looking for new domain names. Okay, and I bought premium domain names for more than the regular price. And that's what these are, is premium domain names, because it's like an investment. Fun.com was sold for 9.9 million in 2008. Sex.com has recently hit the auction block with a starting price of $1 million. It was first purchased by Match.com founder Gary Kramer in 1994 and was last sold, it's been sold several times, in 2006 for $14 million. Sex.com got tons of traffic in the beginning, because you may have noticed that any websites related to sex get a lot of traffic, and there's a lot of searches related to sex. And because people did not know what to look for, they wanted sex, they were looking for sex, they would just randomly type in sex.com to see what came up, and whoever had the website would get tons of traffic. So that's why the value was on that name, and it still is. And as they're saying, it has recently hit the auction block. It's going to start at $1 million. If you could pick it up for $1 million, you'd be crazy not to buy it. And I don't care how poor you are. We're going to talk about that in some other videos. This idea that it takes money to make money, that's not always true. And even when it does take money, it doesn't have to be your money. Okay? It does not have to be your money. If you had the opportunity, if you had a closed door opportunity and when there was no auction, and somebody said to you, I will sell you sex.com for $1 million. I will sell it to you and only you for $1 million. You would be crazy if you responded by saying, I don't have $1 million, and walked away. You would be a fool. Matter of fact, you would deserve to be, I won't say shot, but certainly beat for blowing that opportunity. Getting $1 million would be the easiest thing in the world if you could buy sex.com for $1 million, because you could very easily flip it for multi-millions. But anyway, and it still has that type of value even today. So let's go to number 11. Insure.com, that domain name reportedly sold to Quinn Street for $16 million in 2009. Those are the 11 most expensive domain names ever. Now, I'm going to show you how I search for valuable, one of the methods I use to search for valuable domain names today. I go to a tool that is free. It is Google AdWords keyword tool. And if you want to find this website, you would go to adwords.google.com. adwords.google.com. And then you would click on the link that says keyword tool. This is Google AdWords keyword tool. Now I'm going to play around with this a bit. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to match types, and I'm going to change it from broad. I'm going to put it on exact. And what this is going to do is going to show me how many people are going to Google looking for different things on a monthly basis. Okay? So that's what this is. Global monthly searches and local monthly searches. How many people are looking for certain things? Now let's think about something that, let's try this. I'm just going to randomly type in some things so I can show you the potential. Presidential election 2012. How many people are typing that in? I hate CAPTCHA with a passion. Okay. They're telling me that the competition for presidential election 2012 is low. That means there's not a lot of sites that are targeting that keyword phrase. It is getting approximately 14,800 global monthly searches and about 9,900 local monthly searches. Okay. Um, Global obviously would be worldwide. Okay. Now, you might say, what is the value in that? Well, the value is, think about it. You have 14,800 people globally searching presidential election 2012. Okay. Now, United States is not the only country that has a presidential election. So you might want to look at the local monthly searches that would be more related to the United States. Or you could even put in the U.S. presidential election 2012. But let's leave it like that. Now what I'm going to do is click on presidential election 2012, that exact phrase. But before I do, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click here. And what that does is it reformats the searches from highest to lowest. The exact phrase I put in was presidential election 2012. That was a starting point. And all I'm trying to show you how to do is how to start doing a search. Okay, so now I'm looking at the search phrases that are getting the most searches per month first, and then it goes down to the ones that are getting the least. So as we can see, the phrase that is somehow related to presidential election 2012, the search term, word, or phrase that is getting the most searches is the word Obama. It is getting 823,000 searches globally per month.